Today's a real full circle moment for me because I got to speak to Tim Stoddart. And if you don't know who that is, he, in my opinion, is one of the OG directory builders. He's been building them for over 10 years, and he's famously known for Sobernation, which was his first online company that was a wild success. He took that, turned it into a marketing agency that was doing $2 million a year, which was recently acquired. Today, he's still building directories, so we get to talk about his projects that are ongoing. We talk about Sobernation and how that website performed, the peak revenue that it was at, and some of the intricacies that exist with a mid six figures lead gen directory. We talk about his approach to building his directories, how he vets ideas, how he gets backlinks for tough niches like healthcare, because that's kind of his thing. He tends to build in the health and wellness space. And of course, I had to ask him about AI and SEO and what he thinks the impact will be for directory websites. So really cool conversation with a lead gen directory expert. Really hard to find these kinds of people and really talk to them and pick their brain. So hopefully you enjoy this casual conversation with Tim Stoddart. I'm kind of curious, like going back, we both worked a sales job while working on a directory, like outside of that. Did you always know it was going to be an SEO play? Like you're going to learn how to distribute Sobernation directory through SEO. And then like, did you know it was always going to be lead gen? I'm just curious about that early mindset because for me, it was all about skill development. I was like, all right, I'm just going to learn SEO on YouTube and I'm going to treat it as a playground to learn SEO. And if it works, then great. If it earns money, great. But that's not really my expectation.
I'll give you the whole rundown, the whole evolution. Sobernation started for two reasons. I had a friend, a lot of people know my story. I grew up in Philly. I had like a terrible, really awful drug problem. I had a cousin in South Florida who I just like crashed on his couch and basically detoxed for like 3 months. And after having like 6 months sober or something like that, I started to make some friends and gained a little weight and life was better. I discovered this guy named Seth Godin who had this advice to start a blog. And so I started a blog, it was on Blogspot, and I wasn't really blogging about anything in particular. I was just writing every day because I didn't know what else to do. At the same time, I had a friend who was working at a sales room and he was selling advertising to local businesses. And the deal was that they would make these little magazines and then they would ship them to the country clubs. And basically, it was like the ad magazine that the members of the country club would like pick up. I don't know much about it. They would just like display them on a table or something like that. This friend came to me that they would find the businesses to pitch by looking up the country clubs and then looking for the local businesses surrounding that country club. And I think it was like golf.com or some crazy like that. And that's how it started. That was the whole idea. Like, whoa, what if we just built a treatment center, or excuse me, a directory of treatment centers? We didn't really think about it too much. And when I really started running with it, I thought it was a content play and still did. Like, you got to remember, this was almost 15 years ago. Facebook looked a lot different than it does now. And it was like a blast. So at first, it was advertising because what else did you do on websites at the time other than sell advertising? And then it was like licensing deals and then being like featured facilities in the directory. I was really just making it up as I went along. And I landed on the spot of lead gen. I'm not going to say by accident because I was intentionally trying to find the best way to do it, but it wasn't expected. Like I didn't go into that whole project thinking I'm going to build a lead gen directory. But what Sobernation did really is in a lot of ways, it's like my least successful thing that I've ever created because it was just so much bashing my head against the wall and so much frustration. But what it did is it was kind of like you said, it was like a sandbox for me to learn how to do SEO and especially local SEO. And so from there, once we had a proof of concept, we spun off a ton of directories in the lead gen space, a lot of them in behavioral health, but some in other industries as well. And I'm still doing it. I'm spinning up a stem cell clinic directory right now. There's been some laws that changed recently about stem cell clinics, and I think that's really exciting. I'm doing one about autism. Treatment agencies, you call them agencies because autism is kind of like, it's hard to generalize. You know, there's like speech therapists and behavioral therapists and all different types of therapists that act within like the neurodivergent space. And so you just call them agencies. And yeah, I love it. Like it's changed a lot over the last 15 years and I've learned a lot and I've had to make a lot of pivots and adjustments, right? But I still think that directories are killer businesses and are, how do I say this? It's like, it's a really, really simple and streamlined model that has a ton of upside in exchange for not a ton of risk, right? And if you're looking to get started, it's a really, really great place to go.
I'm just going to share my screen because I like to look up
Awesome.
the keywords sometimes, but that sounds really interesting. Stem cells, I feel like Didn't you have to like fly to South America for the longest time just to get stem cell treatment or something like that?
Yep, stem cells. In Panama, I think Costa Rica was another one. In Europe as well, a lot of people would fly to the Netherlands and I think Germany as well. So if you go on Wayback Machine, you can actually find the original directory. It's Stem Cell Authority, and I feel kind of stupid now because I shut it down because I was just having such a hard time. And so the actual domain isn't going to be live, but that is the domain I own, and that's what I'm building the directory on again.
Nice.
Because I had a directory and it was getting traffic, but there was just nothing I could do because I would have to like find lead buyers in Panama
Hmm.
and in Europe, and it was just too hard. It just wasn't worth it. And so, the expression like you make plans and God laughs, and as soon as I decided like this is a waste of my time, I'm just going to shut it down. The legislation in America with like FDA and the kind of a treatment and the types of treatments that you're allowed to administer all changed. I was like, that's funny,
Yeah.
right? Like figures, but fuck it, I'll just go again.
I feel like the healthcare space is always filled with those kind of traps where it's like either regulations change or Google's like whatever your money YMYL, so it's like
Yeah.
kind of a touchy subject. With Sobernation, like what was the headaches that you mentioned? Was it like actually the technical knowledge to go and build out the website, or was it like trying to get healthcare leads? Like what was the biggest pain point there?
No, with SoberNation, the headache was not understanding what I was. I didn't know if I was just a technical SEO directory or if I was a media company that kind of had a directory attached to it. And as I've gotten more sophisticated, or it's kind of the opposite, like as I've just embraced the simplicity in a lot of ways, like the simplicity is what the sophistication is because you have to learn what not to do in order to get simple, right? And so, I mean, we were getting so much traffic at one point, but a vast majority of that traffic was sort of like blog traffic, almost like Huffington Post type stuff, but just about sobriety. And then, as you can see, I made the terrible, terrible mistake of rebuilding the site. And when I
Oh.
rebuilt the site, it kind of crushed everything. I was a rock in a hard place, because we were losing a ton of SEO and other competitors were coming in. So I had to do something. But it's also another one of those things where, funnily enough, the revenue didn't really get crushed that much because with helpful content and with a lot of the local stuff and now with AI stuff as well, it's just the directory is still so valuable that when people come to the site, they still get the answers that they're looking for. And so it's still a pretty healthy business. It's definitely not what it was in its heyday. And I don't know, truth be told, I've made some investments over the last 5 years that sort of make Cerbernation seem like not the best use of my time. It's still going. There's a team that rocks it and they're crushing it. So I'm still super, super proud of it. It's really like one of my proudest accomplishments in my life.
And it's the first one that you created, which is kind of
Yeah.
insane when you think about that. My first directory ever was successful, but when I say success, like at the time I was working a full-time job and I was just trying to optimize for lifestyle businesses and just what can I spend a lot of time up front with, and then it slowly kind of becomes more easy to maintain. And
Yeah.
it's like a $2,000-3,000 a month passive website that's been there for 3 years or so, but
Yeah, but that's great. You kidding me? That's like 30 grand a month or 30 grand a year.
oh yeah, yeah. No, it's awesome. And honestly, that was a big part of like leveraging that to go into freelance SEO consulting. That's really what made me or allowed me to quit my job, which was really, really sweet. I guess I should really remind myself comparison is the thief of joy, but this is so sick. Like these are all
Thank you.
these are all paying rehab centers, right? Like all the sponsored ones.
All the sponsored ones are paying. But as you said before, the real revenue comes from the sponsored hotline. So if anybody's watching the video, there's a phone number at the top of the site that, I will also say one of the reasons why all of my lead gen directories were successful is because I had some really, really good relationships with lead buyers. The hardest part of the lead gen business by far, especially if it's a national lead gen business, is finding different buyers to buy calls in different parts of the country. Because if
Mhm.
somebody's in Pennsylvania, a rehab in California doesn't really want that phone call. Well, in California, they probably do. That's a bad example. But let's say, like Missouri or something like that. Most of these places are very local. I built some relationships with other marketing companies that I've just worked with for years, like more than 10 years. I've only ever had one buyer. So I will say that if there's something I can really hang my hat on, it's that I did a good job in the very beginning seeing that like that's going to be a problem. There's no way I'm just spending all of my days 24/7 finding new places to try to buy these leads local. Like I need to find a relationship.
Hmm.
And I did, and it's made all of the rest such a, well, not a breeze. It's been hard work, but it's allowed me to focus on the thing that actually matters, which is building the website and just getting more traffic, more relevant traffic to the website. And so that was huge.
When you say buyer, I'm kind of curious, like, how does this work with the offer? And then when you say media buyer, are you talking about someone who takes any interest or inbound and then connects them with a location based rehab near them? Like, how does that even work?
Yeah, it's people come to the website because they are most likely looking for treatment. They need help. And so when they call that number, that phone call goes to a network of facilities that are all serving rehab. They're all rehabs. So you have to be really careful. I mean, you put up the disclosure.
Hmm.
It's really important that you do things right because you can't put a phone number on a website pretending like you are an actual facility. You have to say like if this is the facility that you're looking for, call this number. Don't call the number on the top of the website, which is like a national hotline basically. And yeah, so it's just worked really well. It's been great.
Awesome. So this company is the one who picks up the phone.
Correct.
Gotcha. I was always curious about that because I feel like this is such, just from a user experience angle, like this is so nice to have. And in my mind, I was like, are you hiring people to basically route them to resources and over the phone, like, of course, helping them, but also capturing the lead information and then selling the lead? So this makes a lot more sense that you're just doing that.
And that's what I would have had to do for Stem Cell Authority. You see what I mean? Like, there's no centralized place that I can sell the phone calls to. I'd have had to have all of these different relationships and like swap out the phone number dynamically depending on where they get to the website, like what location the searcher, the user is actually at, and making sure that they're calling a person or a clinic that they can like drive to, basically. So yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot of skills that I didn't ever think I would need to know, like call tracking and just ways that the lead gen industry runs itself. I've become basically an expert on all of these weird, like idiosyncratic skills that only exist in lead gen.
I'm curious how much, because you took the directory and then you kind of ended up turning that into the agency, which is Stodzy, which you recently got acquired. So congrats on that, by the way. Um,
Thank you.
how much was this portfolio of directories a portion of like lead gen? Because I see this and I'm like, that's so smart. You have these directories that are dominating this space, or like at least all trying to solve this problem of helping people overcome like addiction or just like get healthier in general. Was this a massive role in Stodzy being like, I don't want to say easier to run, but getting leads for Stodzy and then turning that into like website building clients, et cetera, whatever, all the offers that Stodzy was doing?
That's the only reason why I started Stodzy in the first place, because people were reaching out to me through Sobernation. And, I was just getting started at that point. I didn't have that many leads. I was like, look, I don't know what to do. I don't have any phone calls for you. That last one, medically assisted, by the way, that link's going to be broken because I just kind of gave up on this one too for that same exact reason that we talked about that local conundrum, basically. When I use the word racket, it sounds like it's being manipulative. It's not that at all. We just had a good leverage play because in the beginning, we would only sell phone calls to our clients, our Stasi clients. So it'd be like, well, we don't have any phone calls. We only work with our clients. It's in network. If you want to become a client of Stasi, we'll build your internal lead gen for you. And then you can also get the phone calls that we provide. But the other was true as well, where we would get people looking for phone calls. We would get people looking for marketing services. And then we could say, hey, just so you know, we can sweeten the pot a little bit. You can join our lead gen network, right? So they would really work hand in hand with each other. It's kind of painful right now to look at all the Ahrefs just because of how much SEO has changed
Mm-hmm.
over the last 3 years and like the dive that all of our sites have taken with traffic. But, like I said, it's still all pretty good because local hasn't really changed that much. And you can see it on the SERPs. Like if you Google something like plumber near me, you don't really get the Gemini AI thing in the same way that you do if you search for like what's the best way to fix a pipe under a sink. You know what I mean? And so
100%.
yeah, so like the revenue has it's definitely dropped as the traffic has dropped, and I think that's pretty obvious why. But yeah, the business has created like a little bit of a moat around it just because it's so localized that we've been able to kind of maintain. But this
Mhm.
is also, man, I've been working on this stuff for 15 years. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
weird talking about it because I feel like such a, like I'm such a lame directory builder entrepreneur when like all the cool shit now is AI and social media and Instagram, and I'm just like, I don't know. I made all my money doing really boring stuff.
100%, man. I mean, like, I feel like I'm playing catch up. I spent 10 hours yesterday just sitting here understanding Claude code and creating stuff. And it's like a foreign language, but it's so, I feel like I need to learn it. So I feel like right there with you, minus the made all my money with directories. But what
Oh, you're on your way.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a cool year for sure. With Sober Nation, I feel like with healthcare directories, you don't need a lot of traffic to monetize like pretty well because it's a high average order value, I'm sure, with the leads. If you get one client or they get one client, it makes it all worth it. Are you willing to share like how much Sober Nation is bringing in and these other healthcare directories are? And like, what was the peak of Sober Nation?
Well, the peak of Recovery Local as a whole, Recovery Local is sort of the network of directories that we built. I mean, it's a different model because there's like no employees, there's no overhead. For like an agency, we're doing easily a couple million a year, but then you need employees to do all that stuff. So we would work really hard to keep our margins high, but nonetheless, like it's just a different model. With the directories, there's only three of us.
Hmm.
And so, it's high margin, very high margin, and I felt pretty good about that. I think I made personally, like after taxes, probably like 350 a year from
Damn.
the Recovery Local sites, and yeah, I mean it was a great business. It's still crazy though, considering that like some of these other websites that had real solid SEO teams would just rake in millions and millions. And you said something interesting, like comparison is the thief of joy, and I totally relate to that. But I would really compare myself to them, but there'd be other times where I saw like the huge operation that they had to keep this whole thing going. And I'm like, man, I'm just hanging with my wife and I'm fighting Muay Thai whenever I want to and doing whatever I want whenever I want. Like I don't want to be in some office building all the time. And yeah, so it's really just about like what you want in life, because I could easily look at this and say like we were such a small fish, the whole thing wasn't really that successful, like we left so much on the table, but then I could just as easily look at it from the other perspective and just be like, man, like this was the best thing that ever could have happened. I got to live life the way I want to, and I mean, I'm not a billionaire, but I don't have money problems at all. And yeah, I'm really grateful, really. I just every time I talk about this and like relive these moments, I just get filled with gratitude.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting business, and yeah, for whatever reason, directories are kind of having its moment. This last, I feel like 6 months, especially for the beginner directory builder who wants to get to like a 350K a year portfolio. Do you think the plan is still to build a portfolio within a specific niche and then kind of dominate that space, or do you think the beginning is just all about skill development? Hop around if you will, maybe try to find and land on one really profitable directory. I think care.com is doing like 500 million revenue a year or something.
Yeah.
Like what's your take on that? And like, what would you recommend for someone who's like really trying to take this seriously, build out a really profitable portfolio of directories?
Yeah, it's a great question. I have two takes on it, and I'm sorry that I'm not looking at you when you're talking to me. I actually have like a cool little video that I'm gonna
Cool.
send to you so that you can play. I just have to like send it to myself and then send it to myself again. So I'll get that in a second. But
That's cool.
here's what I think. I think you just want to embrace local. The best way to monetize a directory, in my opinion, right now, is actually a hybrid of the two things that I've spoken about. It is a media company and it is local SEO. I think it's kind of dangerous. Like I see local doing really well over the next 10 years for a lot of the reasons I've talked about it in my YouTube videos and stuff like that. And so I'm not worried about that going away, but you just never know. And
Hmm.
so life can change in an instant. I mean, if you want to see something really funny, I'll give you a great example. Pull up Ahrefs again and go to yourfirststep.org, and you can see what it looks like to make and lose, $50,000 a month within a day and then make it again. So here, there's that first, all the way over there in 2018, right? Bloop. went from 20 grand a month to
Wow.
zero. And 2018, 20 grand a month was like insane money for me. Like I'm like a poor kid from Philly. And then we worked and worked and worked and worked. That was helpful content, built it back up, and then bloop. And then, we've been working our asses off for 4 years, and then same thing, bloop. So like it's a dirty game out there. There's nobody owes you anything. It
Hmm.
can change in an instant. And
But then
so,
you,
do I think local is here to stay? I do, but I think that media and like a brand, especially a newsletter, is the most defensible thing that you can possibly have. And so, if I'm telling people where to start, I'm saying combine like a local newsletter because they're strong businesses within themselves. I mean, Facebook kind of killed newspapers, but people are thirsty for what's going on in their events, or excuse me, like events in their neighborhood. Like I live in Denver. There's always cool shit going on, and like you got to really search to find it. All of these new cities, like these second tier cities, I don't know, like the Nashvilles and like Minneapolis and Boise, like there's just cool shit going on in the world right now. And so just because Facebook is here and like newspapers are destroyed doesn't mean that people don't want local news. You just have to modernize it a little bit. So I would combine a local newsletter with a local business directory and then play the two off of each other. So you're not totally dependent on local search traffic to generate revenue for your directory, whether you're selling feature listings, you're selling leads, or however you want to do it. But then you're not totally dependent on like selling newsletter ads on your newsletter as well, because that within itself sucks. So like you have a product sort of baked into your local media site. I think you can't go wrong there. Really, you can't go wrong. You're probably not going to be making millions, but you can absolutely be like a one person army making 200 grand a year after taxes and profit. I mean, probably more, really.
damn. I mean, I feel like a lot of people who are in my community and just like start directories, I would say the number one reason is just to make enough to quit their job. Like people are
Exactly.
in crappy jobs. It makes sense. Like I was drained after, yeah, 6 p.m. It's not fun. It's not fun. But what's like the 1-2 punch with like newsletters and monetizing them? Because I totally agree. I've kind of accidentally combined newsletters with some directories. I have a plasma donation one, and at one
Cool.
point it was like organically getting
Great.
like 500 to 600 people coming through my lead form. And there's thousands of people every month typing in how much does CSL plasma pay? And I was like, oh wow, like there's no information on Reddit. It's very difficult information to get. I'm just gonna make a lead magnet where the entry fee to join the newsletter is a survey where you tell me what your local plasma donations pay. And then I'm just going to put that in the newsletter. So I didn't even have content for the newsletter. I just used the information that was the ticket in, which is kind of funny, but I never
That's so
monetized
cool.
it very well. Is it really just selling ads like cold outreach saying, hey, I have a newsletter, it gets XYZ monthly readers, and then just going that way? Is there a way to like do it smarter?
Yeah, selling ads sucks. It just sucks. My personal newsletter that I send out every morning, timstodds.com, I sell a personal product from that. And I've done, I think at this point, like 86 grand in the last 5 months. And that's with 15,000 subscribers. So I have a little bit of an advantage just because I'm sort of well established, but I don't know, not really. Like nobody really knows who I am. I'm just a guy, like I don't have a giant podcast or nothing like that. So I think that what I'm doing is not like an anomaly at all. It's just a tactic. It's a more direct path to monetization as opposed to trying to sling ads every day. It's exhausting and it sucks and it's never going to be good enough. And so sell your own stuff. Even if it's services. You know what? I'll give you a really great example. And it sounds like you watched my YouTube video, so you might have seen this before. So go to plantretreats.com. This is a directory that I finished building. I'm actually
Oh, nice.
working on it right now, but this is like all of the plant medicine, like psychedelic retreats in the country. I'm really, really excited about this thing. But the
That's
one
sick.
thing that I don't have is what this kid named Henry did, which is so cool. So if you pull up another website, go to tricycleday.com, just like it sounds, tricycleday.com. And this kid has a newsletter all about the psychedelics industry.
Mm.
So my wife is in this space. She's like a psychedelic guide. She had an experience with psychedelics. It really helped her with like some healing stuff, and it changed her life. And so I've just become kind of fascinated with this industry. And what he does is he has sponsorships on his newsletter, of course. But if you click back, the thing that he really does, which I think is most exciting, is find a professional. And so like as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh my God, this kid gets it. Like this is exactly what I do. And this is exactly what I've done over and over and over again. The only difference is like he doesn't even SEO his directory. It's basically just like a JavaScript pop-up on the listings. So, like this record doesn't necessarily have like a unique URL that would be indexed by Google. Great. He doesn't give a shit. It's still like whatever. I have a newsletter,
Yeah.
and of course I'm going to accept sponsorships. I'm not going to pound the pavement every day like cold calling people. But I mean, look at this thing. He's filling up this directory all through his newsletter. And I think it's so cool. Like I've had a couple conversations with this kid. As usual, I tried to convince him to accept money from me because I just know that the industry he's in right now, and his execution, like he's just crushing it. This business is gonna fucking take off.
Hmm.
But this is just the most perfect example I've seen. Like another example that I think is people really leaving money on the table. If you go to From Boise, you mentioned ConvertKit, right? This is Nathan's newsletter. It's a local newsletter. He runs the whole thing through ConvertKit, and they're doing great. Like they have a huge following, 23,000 subscribers, all in Boise, but they are spending so much time and energy selling these ads. And I'm always telling them, I'm like, if you just put a directory on this thing, then this is what's cool about directories. It is marketing and revenue at the same time, right? Like when the directory gets big, other people want to join it. So it's sort of like a self-marketing mechanism, but the marketing sells the product, which is the directory in the first place. So it's not like other products where you have to create content to sell the product. Like the directory itself is the content, which sells the directory itself. And so I keep telling him, like, man, if you just put a directory on this thing, like you'll crush it, and it'll reduce the workload. And so if anybody, I went on this whole rant because you asked me like, what's the best place to get started with a newsletter? So if there's one really great example that I see, it's what Henry is doing with Tricycle Day. And then if you just, I mean, it doesn't have to be local. Like I mentioned stem cells before, you could easily create a stem cell newsletter. Or I'm just into healthcare. That's kind of my thing. It's like
Yeah.
you said, there's a lot of money in it, but it doesn't have to be. Do an esports newsletter. You can easily create a directory of all like the esports teams. Anything really. It's just a really simple model that kicks ass.
Yeah, I mean, this reminds me of a directory I saw recently. You've probably heard of it. It's pretty big, I think, but Retreat Guru. This does 3
Yeah,
million.
these are the people that I'm trying to like kill. I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm trying to take these people out with my directory.
Yeah, this is when I realized, yeah, ayahuasca retreats, any kind of like stress or anxiety retreat to like help overcome that, it's massive. And I totally see how this is just going to grow. Also, any in real life event, full
Sure.
stop there, like that as a category is probably going to be explosive. I look forward to seeing you like completely wipe these guys out.
Yeah, I'm gonna get them.
I think what they do is they collect their whole monetization is they collect, I want to say 10 or 14% of the price that people book through the marketplace. Really smart.
Well,
And
you
they,
watched my YouTube video on it. You might not realize that that's where you got it from, but I did their whole model.
oh,
I
okay.
like broke it down.
I do these videos where I like basically also break down directories. So I recently went on a deep dive.
That's so
Yeah,
cool.
their software that they sell is pretty smart too. But
Yeah, I
um,
agree. They're a cool business for sure.
what's your take on how SEO is changing? I've covered this topic a lot because I get a lot of questions here, but what's your take on GEO, all these kind of different versions of SEO and how it affects building directories?
Well, I kind of touched on it a little bit. Local is here to say, if for no other reason that Google owns the local index. It's literally like a separate product. They own Google My Business. And so there's no reason why they're gonna, that's not like a thing that can get cannibalized. Yeah, I just built it. I literally launched it like 2 weeks ago. And so I think that's fine. AI is a real thing at the same time, which is why I would say to combine media with the directory the same way that I just talked about. But I'm also excited about what AI can do. So if you would allow me,
Yeah.
this is something that I'm working on. So this is what I'm building. And honestly, I'm only building it because in my membership community, as I was creating my course about teaching people how to build directories, I got to this section about populating listings. And then I was like, man, am I really gonna teach people how to scrape like Google and scrape all these other sites and use Python and how annoying it is to organize all the data in spreadsheets and upload it. I was like, there's got to be a better way. And so I reached out to my friend Chase. I was like, man, what do you think about this? Like, do you think this is something we can do? And so then I don't know if the sound is going to be weird because of how Riverside goes, but if you play that video I just sent you, this is what we're building with it. So it's to the left a
Not good.
little, second one to the left. Yeah,
It's
so
just.
watch this shit. Look how cool this is.
By the way, can you hear the audio?
No, I can't. It's okay. I don't know how to do it either. But you don't really have to listen to the audio. I'll just show you. So basically it's a tool. It's a tool where you can create a directory and then you name the directory and you just use the LLM, like you just use AI to say, this is the directory I want to build. What do you think I should use for categories, basically? And then probably skip to like a minute or so, maybe a little bit. Yeah, okay, so he's still building it. Skip a little more. You'll know it when you see it.
Uh,
Like literally just built this entire directory within 2 minutes.
damn.
And so what does that say? It says that, the act of building directories isn't going to have as much value as it used to because this is so easily replicated. And, we're seeing this with AI everywhere.
Hmm.
But there is still such a thing as doing it well. And I think a great example of that is with like social media. Like if AI were so great, then how come everybody doesn't have 1 million followers on social media? Like people still do have a thing where they can recognize it. And so organizing it properly, but then also, like we talked about before, you now have a real easy product to attach to your newsletter or to attach to your media. And if you're just promoting other people's businesses through the directory, through your newsletter, it's almost like you have an automated product machine that like monetizes itself. So I think this is pretty fucking cool.
This is
And I'm
sweet.
really excited about it. It's going to be like another month or so, I think, before it's done, but we're working on it.
I'm not surprised you're jumping into something else after selling your company, which is like, I think actually the sane thing to do. It's like losing a relationship, I'm sure. Once you sell a company that you've been working on forever, when you do create a directory, let's say like you populate the listings, let's just say it's the ayahuasca one. When do you reach out to ayahuasca retreat companies? Do you populate the listings first, make it as valuable as possible, and then go reach out to them and say, hey, I built you a listing. Do you want to claim it or make any changes, and kind of offer that value first approach? And then that kind of segues into a relationship with them. Or do you just go straight for the ask where it's like, hey, we built this. You can pay X amount to have a featured listing, premium visibility. What's the flow there? And I guess what's the plan with something like this?
Well, it's a great question because here's one of the things that AI isn't good at, and it's been like a real tool in our toolbox. Every single listing that you see on the Plant Retreats directory, we reached out to individually and got all their information. And not only did we get their information, like, okay, I shouldn't say we reached out to. Not everybody sent us the information. Like some of the information we just found, the majority of it, we just found and populated the listings with. But once we created it, we emailed all of the people that we could find. And now, I have an email list of, I don't know how many, probably 1,700 professionals in the retreat space that I can turn into something if I want. So it seems like a lot of work. I have like a pretty well established team at this point. So I'll say it was 3 weeks worth of work for somebody to do like 2 hours a day. That 3 weeks goes by a lot faster than you think it's going to, right? It's not actually that bad. And so now, yeah, I have like a fully populated directory, which still has a lot of bugs. I'm still working on it. But at the same time, I have all of the contact info with all of the professionals in the space. So that's always been the flow. You populate the listings however you can, because if you don't populate the listings, you don't have a directory. Well, I have always taken the hard road in terms of using the information to build a relationship as opposed to doing what like Yelp or Yext or all of those other fucking spammers do, where it's like, we made you a free listing, click this button to upgrade now and to get access. I don't know, I just never found that to be that useful. Like the amount of money you can make from just dominating the space is way more than if you're nickel and diamond yourself
Mm-hmm.
for upsells and feature listings and stuff.
100%. I just want to show you this because I found this the other day. It's a funeral home directory. And
Man,
dude, the amount of effort they put in to have this level of price transparency, they did the same thing. They emailed and called other people, all of these funeral homes, and then itemized the actual service, which is kind of unheard of for a directory. But just that, like, I feel like that could be applied to so many things. Like if you're renovating your kitchen and you're finding contractors or landscaping companies around you, you get like 10 different quotes, all varying in like thousands of dollars. But just this concept of really unscalable tasks that are
Yeah,
extremely valuable, I'm a huge fan of.
me
And
too.
I think that like maybe one day we'll be able to use AI and then say, hey, call this number and just go through this flow. But even then, I mean, I used to work in tech
I
sales,
doubt
so
it.
I
Yeah.
seriously doubt it. Like the level of like, I don't know, even the tone that you speak and everything that you do over the phone is part of the strategy to get this in the first place. So
Hmm.
I think like specialized information like this, which I define as information that's either available but in very low quality or that just isn't available unless you go and like do unscalable tasks, is the way that you hedge against AI to some extent. And you can even like maybe hide this behind some kind of lead magnet where it's like, hey, you can access all the prices for these cremation services, but just sign up via this email and then it unlocks it. It's like blurred out, and then that way LLMs can't really crawl the page
Yeah.
and get it. So I've been thinking about different ideas, and yeah, right now I'm looking at luxury porta potties as my next bigger lead gen project because I created a really crappy one. It still has lorem ipsum. It's so ugly, but this got a $20,000 lead last week from the New Mexico State Fair, and they hit me up and they were like, "Hey, we need 109 porta potties, like 3 luxury
Yeah.
restroom trailers." I'm like, "Dude, you know this has lorem ipsum. Like, this is so bad," and it still came through somehow. So that was incentive for me to be like, okay, I'm gonna actually build this out properly. But
But this is the stuff like I'm sorry if I cut you off.
no, no,
I'm
it's right.
so inspired to see this because this is the kind of shit that I always felt like, am I crazy or is everybody else crazy? Where do you know how big of a business porta potties are? Right? Like I remember going to Bonnaroo and it's at music festivals. There's hundreds and hundreds of them, and the infrastructure and the trucks. Like I know it's kind of weird to talk about, right? But the trucks were just constantly coming through to make sure that everything was sanitized and so that people could like pee. You're at a music festival, everyone's shit faced, right?
Oh yeah.
And I'm just looking at it like, who's the person that had the balls to go like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna build a porta potty business and I'm gonna make buku money because nobody else wants to do it. I see that stuff everywhere. Like porta potties is a great example, like stem cells and those kind of things. That's why I like healthcare just because it's really boring and it's not that exciting and nobody likes it. Tires are another one. Like, name somebody that doesn't need a tire.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. Yeah.
impossible. Everybody needs tires. And so I'm so inspired to see you doing it the way that I've always envisioned. There's just money everywhere. It's
Hmm.
everywhere. Every single thing that exists in our world needs to have some kind of market behind it. And so, yeah, you keep going, man. Like, you're going to crush it for sure. Portapottymatch.com. I love it. You could do this in Denver alone. And so I know I'm really getting into the weeds here, but Denver has like kind of a homeless population problem. Not as bad as San Francisco or probably in
I'm in
SoCal
LA,
either, but
so
totally they're around. But Denver is sort of like a purplish city where they just do a good job with this kind of stuff, I think. And so
hmm
instead of like hooting and hollering in San Diego where people are like shitting on the street, they're just like, we're just going to put porta potties everywhere. Like,
yeah.
who cares? We're just going to put porta potties everywhere. And that's not a problem here. And so in Denver alone, you could create like a porta potty directory and make at least 100 grand a year.
I think the market is 2.4 billion last time I checked, and it's the year over year growth is like insane for all sorts of reasons. Festivals, exponential desire to go out, be like not in front of a screen all the time. My plan for this is I'm gonna rebuild this under a new domain and just narrow in on luxury restroom trailers because apparently they rent out for $2,000 a day,
Wow.
low end, and so weddings, outdoor festivals, all that kind of stuff.
Totally.
So we'll see because I have gotten some other leads from this website, which is so funny, but they're just individuals looking for like one or two. And in that case, it's like I mean, it's still good. I don't want to complain, but it's like a $200 lead versus something like a luxury porta potty lead. I feel like with any
Yeah.
lead gen, and I'm sure you think about this a lot, but when you're vetting a niche, in healthcare, at least I'm thinking about what's the ticket on this, the average ticket. I'm looking into a lot of keyword research, looking at competitors, because I always want to find a bounty directory that's like, okay, clearly Google prefers the directory structure. How do you vet an idea? Like, is it passion based? Is it something where you said, hey, my wife's in this space, like we have an unfair advantage in terms of knowledge in this space, and then I'm just going to go build it? Or do you do a ton of research and like SEO, keyword research, backlink research, that kind of stuff?
No, I only care about one thing, and it's do rich people do it? And that's really it. Like, I don't know. That might sound like overly capitalist of me, but
Not at all.
the conversation that you're having in your head is really worth it because, like, the road to hell is through volume for sure. If you want to be wealthy and not be working 90 hours a day, then you just need to find some kind of up market or, like, yeah, you got to go one or the other. But if you're going to go volume, you need to have an infrastructure to support volume, which means you just have to have a bigger team. And I just don't. That's not the way that I chose not to live my life. It's not to say that the other way has a lot of advantages, frankly.
Mhm.
But for me, it was always just like, what do rich people spend money on? And that's it.
I love it.
And that's it. Yeah.
What's your take on AI coding? Are you learning it? Are you obsessed with it? Are you kind of going head deep into that? Or do you feel like WordPress is still more or less king? Because it's like sometimes it's just working with what you're familiar with is the fastest route, in my opinion.
That's exactly it. Yeah. I don't need to be great at everything. I know what my skill set is, and I just already have a team that can build sites in WordPress. Like it'll take me just as long. Because the other problem with like vibe coding is the file structure. Like it's FTP. You know, like it doesn't make sense to code a CMS on top of a website. If you're coding with AI, then you're just uploading code onto a server. And that's really cool. I mean, I think it's so cool. Wow, WordPress is like one of the greatest products ever created in like history. And I know that might sound sensationalist, but it's really not intended to be. It's so brilliant. And so you can build WordPress sites not as fast as AI, but I don't know, sometimes I think you can because one of the things that AI hasn't quite done for me is when something isn't going right, it's still really, really difficult to say like, no, 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 this one thing isn't right because then you make a change, but then a whole bunch of other shit changes, you know? So look, I'm sure there's people that are really, really skilled at AI coding and they might hear me say that and say like, oh no, like you got it all wrong and cool. But no, I like WordPress. I'm probably gonna stay on it until because you know what I mean. Like eventually, WordPress will just have its own AI coders on top of it. So
Yeah,
the platform I think is a little bit irrelevant. It
100%.
doesn't take that long to build a site. So who
Yeah,
cares?
I agree. I feel like you can easily, I call it engineer brain because I used to like work back when I had a job with a lot of engineers, and they'll spend like all this time automating something and then forget the entire picture, which is, dude, just create the thing. You went off this tangent on automating something and you don't even have listings on your directory, or like you
Yeah.
don't even have like an offer or a simple distribution strategy. So
Well,
yeah,
I'll give
I'm
you a really great example about that. And this might sound a little bit out in the weeds, but it's a lesson I never ever forgot. I grew up like a blue collar kid. I built houses for my early 20s and my teens. Like I worked for this contractor for years. His name was Mike, and he's exactly what you think a contractor in the Northeast looks like. You know, he was like huge, a giant bare hands and like flannel shirt. And we were building a roof, and he left to go get supplies. And me and this kid Antonio, there's the three of us. We built this whole like pulley rig system because carrying shingles up a ladder is heavy and it sucks and it's like kind of scary, you know? And we got back and he was like, what are you guys doing? I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like it's gonna make life so much easier for us. And then he just picked these damn shingles up and he walked up the ladders with them and he was like, get these shingles up the ladder right now. And so like I'll never forget it. I know that's sort of like a little bit of an out there example, but I really just never forgot exactly what you're talking about. It's you just get the shingles up the ladder. You know what I mean?
yeah.
You just pick up the shingles and put them on the damn roof. Like all the engineering doesn't really matter. You can just pick the thing up and walk it up a ladder.
And it's less consequential with directories. It's like, okay, you wasted time on a bad niche that never ranks, or I don't know, looks ugly. Like, okay, you lost a few bucks. Probably not life changing. If it's life changing to lose like 200 bucks, probably just get a job first. Like, there's other
Mhm.
priorities that you should probably focus on, anyways. That is a good example. I did want to ask about like backlinks too, healthcare backlinks. Dude, the plasma donation directory, it's like so hard to get backlinks for that. Is there like something that you figured out? Like, for me, it's really just finding a competitor on Ahrefs. I will look at the smaller publishers, the mom and pop publishers where it looks like I can actually get a response if I do cold outreach. And then I'll just pay them like $50 to do a link swap. And then I remove a link from my competitor and also gain a hyper niche relevant link for myself. And that's kind of how I've done it. It's really manual. AI sucks at finding and identifying these mom and pop publishers because I'm not going to get like a large healthcare backlink is just not going to happen. How are you getting backlinks in a really tough niche like healthcare?
There was two things we did that really allowed us to excel. One was we reached out to colleges. I recognized at the time that universities were actually losing a lot of money because kids were dropping out because, they were drinking and basically getting hooked on Adderall. And so we created an entire directory all for collegiate recovery programs. And so SoberNation actually has two directories on it. There's like the rehabs directory, but then there's a collegiate recovery directory. And I would reach out to all these universities. It was super successful. Another way was through Sober Stories, and that was by far one of the growth hacks that we had because like every time somebody would publish a story about themselves and their sobriety, it would kind of go semi-viral just because people love the attention. But really, the move was local municipalities, like absolutely on all the .gov and .org sites. We would just reach out to them manually and say like, hey, we're putting these resources together. I'm sure that the people who live in your what's it called, like jurisdiction
Mhm.
would appreciate this. And, it worked most of the time.
That's really smart. Damn. A .gov backlink is so crazy, and I didn't even think
Yeah, it's
about
not
that, but
joke.
that's so smart.
Yeah, the local municipalities were good and they were like pretty easy to get in touch with.
Mhm.
That wasn't that hard. Like you can call them and they're busy. It was kind of like a sales system, but I don't know, I would just do it on my spare time. I'd spend like an hour a day just putting that stuff together.
I was just curious if there's any like cold outreach hacks that you've done that you feel like is like common knowledge for you now that you always do. For me, it's I always try to find some kind of leverage, and leverage can be literally anything. It could be the amount of monthly visitors you get that you reference. It could be to swap out or put something on their website for money. But is there something that you include in cold outreach to improve your response rate?
Yeah, really. The truth is, I was just willing to do it. And I don't know. I think that's kind of been my answer almost all the time is just do the thing that everybody hates doing and you'll get an advantage. Yeah, no, I didn't have any hacks. I mean, we had a really large Facebook following, still do. I mean, Sober Nation has like 1 million followers, right? So I would always throw that in. Like, yeah, just give me a link and then I'll publish it on my all my socials and send it out in the newsletter and stuff like that. But no, man, honestly, it all just kind of happened through effort.
You kind of mentioned AI, SEO. I think those were like the main concerns. People were like wanting to ask you about what's going to happen in the future. It's like no one's going to know what's going to happen in the future. Just look at the SERPs, in my opinion. Look at what's changing.
Exactly.
If you look up Fisker review, you see the MKBHD video where he completely destroyed that company, and it's a bunch of like forums and videos. That's what dominates the SERPs. But if you look up any local stuff, it's the same. It's the same stuff. So I guess I'll just ask a personal question, which is like, after you sold your business, what's life like? Are you kind of like, okay, whatever, like money is fine. Like we solved the money issue a while ago. Is this just building whatever you want at this point and waking up and just learning what you want? And is that basically your definition of the ideal life that 90-year-old Tim would look back on and be like, yeah, that was dope.
Well, it has been challenging. And I don't ever like to talk about it as though it's wrong because I'm blessed in many ways. But I live in a neighborhood in Denver right next to a lake, basically. And I spent 3 months just walking around the lake, really not knowing what to do with myself. I've always been pretty into fitness, but I just worked out all the time. And yeah, it was challenging not knowing where to go. I'm 39, my son's 4.5, my daughter's almost 3, so I did have my hands full with that, but also it was really hard, man. Like for real, it was very hard. I do not subscribe to the fact that like money doesn't solve problems or like it's not as good as you say it is. I've been on both sides of the poverty line. 1,000% it's better to have money than not to have money. And anybody that like puts up a fight with that is, I don't know what they are, like virtue signaling, or maybe they just feel guilty And I didn't have that. I have no guilt about it. Like the reason why I work is to make money. I'm not trying to save any whales. I want to do great and like I want the whales to be happy and healthy, but like I work to make money. It's the reason that I do it. And I love it also. Like it's a really fun game and the game is just so fun. Like I really, really love it. And I'm so grateful that I came across something that challenges me in the way that it does. And so where did that bring me? Well, that kind of brought me all the way back to the beginning where it's like, how did I get started? I got started as a writer. That's how it all started for me. Really, I was 4 months sober. I had quite literally just thrown up and like sweated through my sheets every night for the last 3 months because I had such bad withdrawals. And sitting down and writing and just expressing myself into the internet saved my life in a lot of ways. And it got me a lot of the things that I have. So I was like, what do I want to do? Well, I love investing. I have a lot of investments that I still actively work on. And so it's a blessing to be able to work on my own companies as opposed to just doing only client services work. And so all of that is like pretty much solved for. But to answer your question, it all came back to writing. And I'm really loving waking up in the morning, getting my cup of coffee, and writing my daily newsletter and just seeing where it goes. I don't really have any plans for it. I'm not trying to build a media empire, but like
Again.
as yeah, exactly. Thanks. But as is always the case, like the best things have come to me from just writing. And I don't know where it's going, but it's definitely going somewhere because there's real traction behind my newsletter right now. People like you are reaching out to me again, and I'm getting asked to be on podcasts again. So we'll see where it goes. But, for the first time in my life, I feel this sense of like surrender, like I don't have to have it all figured out. I'm just going to keep putting stuff out there, keep doing the stuff I love, see what happens.
Dude, you have one of the best rise to the occasion stories, I think, ever. And I appreciate you just being vulnerable about it, man. I think most people are restarting their lives at 30, mid 30s, 40s, whatever it might be. So just the fact that you are a role model in that sense, that's amazing. And I don't think any of us have it figured out, to be frank. Um,
Absolutely not. Yeah, no
people
one
are,
has a clue what they're doing.
where do you want people to find you? What are you working on? What should people be paying attention to and look forward to?
Yeah, timstotts.com. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. That's it. Read my newsletter. Give me compliments to make me feel good about myself.
Me too, please. We need it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man.